Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming. I realize it's a special occasion. It's Friday morning, it's just before Christmas. Thank you still for sparing your valuable time and being here with us this morning. While preparing for this morning's talk, so I was wondering what is it that I can actually tell you, because we really have experts in the field here who are going to be speaking very soon following me. So I really shouldn't be saying something which then the experts will tell you that it's not true actually. So I thought I'll just sort of restrict it to give you a sort of sense of the scenario where India is. I mean, everybody's talking about India emerging as a global power. India is now sort of arrived on the scene. So just to sort of put it in context, the rest of the discussion that will flow for the rest of the morning. So I thought let's go back a few years when sort of India sort of started emerging out of so it was being constrained. And the significance really which happened was when with the United States we had this 1-2-3 agreement, what they call in 2008, where we started to get access to civilian nuclear energy. So that was really a turning point when we got the approval of the most of the international community for this step. Yeah. So that's our key strategic ally. It has always been Russia for a long time. We sort of started widening our international relationship. The United States admitted that India is now a global player and that it had to sort of have its rightful place. So the significance of the civil nuclear deal may not still be felt in many strategic circles and in the commercial community, and all of you also who deal with India. Oh, by the way, I don't know how many of you are actually having business dealings with India already. So if I can just have a show of hands that, okay, so not too many people who already have business dealings with India. So there are some new faces, so that's nice to know. This sort of relation, that India's emergence, the significance is that it was actually cut off. We didn't have any access to dual-use technologies, to technologies really high-tech in any field. So this sort of regime was set up to sort of constrain India's growth since our nuclear tests in '74. So the entire regime, which today is actually being used to constrain other states, it was actually set up to stop India from developing. So people may not realize that. So we were quite sort of working towards coming out of that strategic constraint, so to speak. And it has huge commercial significance and importance because that is where dual-use technologies, high-tech technologies, space, aerospace, you name the field and you need. I mean, in today, even in the motor car, auto industry, I think there's lots of those technologies which actually come in and we didn't have access to it commercially. But now we've of course joined the missile technology control regime, we're trying to join the nuclear suppliers group, there are other regimes. So all this is sort of moving forward. So we're sort of emerging not only in the economic sphere, in the strategic space I wanted to just mention. So it obviously goes side by side with that. Our relationship with the EU is, now we have a strategic relationship with the EU, we have a huge relationship with ASEAN, with China. That's our neighborhood, then we come in. With China, we have $75 billion of trade. So it's a huge trade, though we have an undemarcated border and there's over 3,000 kilometers of undemarcated border, which some people call as the largest real estate dispute in the world. So that's where we are. With Pakistan, of course, there's tension on the border, which you may be wondering when you think of doing business with India. But we can talk about that later, maybe in the question and answer sessions or whenever you're interested over lunch. India, 7 countries as its neighbors, so it's quite significant where we are located. Only 100 kilometers from Southeast Asia in nautical miles. If you look at this, that's also India, by the way, and that's where we are. Indonesia, Myanmar, so barely 100 nautical miles from Southeast Asia. of course, we have the Straits of Hormuz and all that comes from here. It's the only country in the world, by the way, where an ocean is named after the country. So it really has a significance. It comes from, we'll come to that a little bit in a way. 1/5 of total global trade goes through the Indian Ocean. 50% of maritime trade, oil trade, goes through the Indian Ocean. 40% of offshore petroleum reserves are in the Indian Ocean. So that's the significance of the ocean and India being involved there. Since we were talking about the strategic thing, just I thought I'll fit this on the map here. You can see where it sort of fits in. If you were to just superimpose India onto the map of Europe and you come all the way up to North Africa and then Scandinavia up there, you're well into Russia here and a large part of France. So that's what India looks like when you actually put in. So if you do hear about some tension in Pakistan or some border here, that's assuming, something happening in Sweden and you get worried because you want to invest in Greece or Romania. That's the sort of distances or the sort of magnitude of what we are talking about. So just to keep it in mind, the context of where we come from, India. We'll talk about the population already later in the next few minutes. In terms of the scientific emergence of India, we had the first launch of mission to Mars. It was the only country in the world that launched it successfully on its first attempt. Even the United States and Europe could not launch a mission to Mars successfully in the first attempt. So that's the significance of our scientific emergence. Over 150 satellites have been launched. More than 50% of these satellites are foreign owned. So that's what the foreigners have faith in our sort of scientific capabilities. The latest that we've done is 20 satellite launch vehicles in a single 20 satellites launched as a single vehicle. So again, nobody has done that. 20 satellites being launched in one single vehicle. After that, of course, we move on to the... that's the sort of, I just thought, again, sort of, it shows you all the images of India, which are all probably true. Good infrastructure, but then we have the sort of some constraints on that infrastructure. That photograph was our first satellite being actually transported. So that is how our first satellite was actually being transported. So you may not have seen that, but that's of course Taj Mahal for the tourist sector. In the economic field, that's our sort of growth rates. You can see that where India is likely to be the growth engine for the next few decades. That's where we are. China is sort of beginning to slow down. India is just beginning to pick up. We have had a few years of double-digit growth a few years back. We are hoping to get back to that sort of growth rate. Purchasing power parity, if you look at the size of the economy, it's the third largest economy in the world in purchasing power parity. Per capita income in purchasing power parity is down there, so there's a huge scope for growth. This slide, I just thought I'll put it together. I mean, a few months back, the common feature in all this is an Indian CEO in all these companies. So that's our latest export, Indian managerial talent, including the Dean of the Harvard Business School, sorry, that one there. So that's just one example of where India is and how it's emerging. I thought this will be of interest to tell you where India, in terms of trade, how we've done over the last few years. That's where we were not so long back by Indian standards, 250, 300 years back. If you actually go back a little more, 1,000 years back, in the year 1000 AD, I don't know how many people are aware, the per capita income of India, China was higher than the per capita income in Europe. So that's the sort of living standards we were talking about that existed actually, which people may not be aware. And this is just a slide on the share of trade, and that's where we look at it going up. So you can see how the turn seems to have taken place, the cycle seems to be moving now in the direction. Before I come to the bilateral quickly, I'll just tell you, of course there are huge constraints, there are lots of challenges, but that's where the opportunity exists for all of you who are going to do business. There's 400 million people who don't have access to commercial electricity. There's approximately the same number of people who actually go to bed hungry, not able to have a proper square meal for dinner. So that's a huge challenge of food, education, health, infrastructure, you name it, and the opportunities exist and are there. Of course, there are other challenges which we can again speak about later in more detail. Bilaterally, we have this sort of all these agreements, we have everything in place. Apollo Tyres is invested here. Not many Hungarian companies are investing out yet in India, so we're waiting for that to happen. But we on our side are happy with that. With SMR is now coming in. Of course, that made us the #1 investor in 2014, the #3 investor in 2015. Even the #1 investor in 2015 also, if you look at just greenfield investments. So that's there. We have, of course, a lot of tourism going up. So this is just a sort of slide about what all is happening. We had the Vice President of India last month. So he had a very good meetings with everyone here. A lot of discussions in all sectors which are going to go up. We had a Ganga Danube cultural festival, so a lot of awareness about India has increased and is going on also. At this Amrita Shergill's Cultural Center, some of you were present. I think Mr. Shershnias was himself here to see the crowd that Hungary, the Hungarian people who came to appreciate earlier this week, a lovely dance drama that we had here. So that's sort of, we try our best to sort of build a bilateral relationship in other fields, which will probably help all of you when you start doing business with India, because awareness about India is going to go up and grow. We have this very nice Stipendium Hungaricum program, which the Hungarians have set up, 200 scholarships every year for students. We on our turn offer this iTech program, which is going on with Hungary for the last 40 years. We've got people going to India from Hungary, lots of them being trained in India. So that's another resource that all of you, it'll help you while you do your business. We of course have very interesting stories also about our links. All of you may be aware already about President Gons, how his life was sort of, to some extent, we helped in sort of saving his life, and then he ultimately went on to become president. We are happy for our little contribution. There are many other stories of that nature, but I won't bore you anymore. I'll leave it to the experts to take over the business. Thank you so much.